Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
What a difference a week makes. Simpson makes a terrific start with back-to-back wins to take the Blues out of the relegation zone. We look back on two massive victories in a week while looking ahead to another big clash as United travel to Boundary Park to face in-form Oldham Athletic.
With a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run, the old 1-2 and a shot.
How close are you then to forgiveness, Dan? Are we on the steps to redemption for Paul Simpson?
The deal is, if we stay up, the fatwa is lifted. But hey, footballer, bloody hell.
What a start. I mean, I think we all got the impression of the lift it gave the fans last week, but the way things have turned around in the space of, 7... I mean, we're recording on Wednesday this week because it's your birthday tomorrow, Dan, isn't it? You're 30 again, I believe.
21.
But yeah, so basically, this time last week, he'd only been manager for what? 8 hours? 8 hours, something like that. And now look at it. It just feels like a completely different... If you went on Tuesday night, you never would have guessed that was a team in the relegation, other than the fact that they were a bit back to the walls at the time. But you would never have guessed that this was a team that was struggling, would you?
No, not at all. It's incredible, isn't it? You know, it's the same players.
Yeah, there's just a belief there suddenly, and where that's come from is incredible. Obviously, we'll talk about those games in a minute. We'll talk a bit more in depth on the Rochdale game because neither of us went to Orient and neither did Mike, so we haven't really got a sort of. We've spoken to a few people who've been there, so we'll cover that a little bit. But yeah, we both went to different games at the weekend, didn't we? I think, did you go to Carlisle City? I seem to remember.
Yeah, I was at Carlisle City because I had some work related on later in the day. So
very good. I went to watch Man United against Watford. I was sat in the Watford end with someone I used to work with a few years ago, and he basically said, "Oh, do you want to come along? Got a spare ticket for the match?" So went along. Wasn't the greatest game of football ever, but a good point for Watford, to be fair on them. Right. Well, let's get straight into it, Dan. Talking about the feel-good factor and, taking advantage of that. I mean, fair play to United. They've responded straight away, haven't they? We put a little bit of pressure on them as fans and said, look, take advantage of this real, the lift that the sports have got. And they've done that by announcing that tickets have been slashed for the Northampton game, haven't they, Dan?
Yeah. I'd actually mentioned this on Twitter, hadn't I? There was whispers that they were going to do the Bristol Rovers game, but that's far too down the line. You've got to take Impact straight away, and it was never going to happen for Rochdale. Tickets were already on sale. But then we noticed, it was pointed out to us by one of our mates, Tim. He noticed that Northampton had suddenly stopped selling tickets for the game after a request from the home club. So. Yeah, a little bit later, it was announced that £10, £5, and £2 straight. All doesn't matter when you buy. Obviously, you're better off buying in advance because there will be queues.
Oh, there'll be queues. There'll be people who'll turn up, they'll queue, and they'll complain. Say, well, you've had all week to pay for it, haven't you? So,
did
you say that? That's for seating and terracing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just all the same everywhere. So,
I mean,
good.
On the back of two big wins and hopefully another good result this weekend at Oldham, could push for a 5-figure crowd for the first time since in a league game since 10k for MK, I think, wouldn't it be? I think.
Yeah.
I missed that game actually. I remember because I was on a stag do that day. I don't think I missed much though, did I?
You didn't miss much.
No, it wasn't great. Was it Stefan Skugel penalty? I think for us, and MK just dominated that match. So real shame. So there you go. Get your tickets booked early. I think I know quite a few people who haven't been going for quite a while who are already talking about going to this game. I've no doubt we'll hit the 5 figures for this, I reckon, because
Saturday 3 p.m. It's perfect, isn't it?
Absolutely, and hopefully we'll real positive feel about it, and then obviously we can take that into the Newport game in midweek after that as well. That's another big game, and there are two teams at home in a row who are pushing for a promotion place. So. Massive, that. Absolutely massive. Should we do a loan update, Dan, before we go to the match reviews? Yep. So Josh Dixon first. Workington, he was an unused sub at the weekend. We think this might have been the last game of his initial month loan.
I was listening to the radio as I was coming to the match, and as I was walking down to Carlisle City,
Yeah.
I had Radio Cumbria on, and they mentioned the commentator for Reds mentioned it was the last game of his loan, but would expect to hear something this week. So I'd be very surprised if he doesn't stay there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in coming back just to sit in the stands with us. Even if he's just on the bench for them, it's a better for him. He's getting his warmth. He's getting all his extra bits as well. So I think hopefully he'll stay. But Reds actually went down to a 1-0 defeat against Widnes in front of a 4-figure crowd, which I think it was the highest crowd. Is it step 7 there? Step 8, isn't it? I think they're right. Yeah,
their level. Yeah.
So some really impressive crowds in non-league this weekend, wasn't there? Some of the cases were getting. Obviously, Isle of Man being the big one that we all spotted. I think that's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isle of Man away in the FA Cup in a few years' time. That's what we're
Isle of Man, Dover, or Truro. They're the three games.
the three extremes. I could get the ferry to Isle of Man. That would be quite handy for me, actually. So hopefully we'll get news on that with Josh. I think Dan Wordsworth was actually sent off in this game, wasn't he, quite early on? Which is why they struggled a little bit. Taylor Charters. You know what? I've just realised I don't think I've properly updated this, have I? I haven't updated Taylor's thing properly. I do apologise. It's not saved what I put in. Basically, Taylor Charters essentially came on as a sub in the game against AFC Telford this weekend. The weekend, didn't he? So 1-1 draw for them. Another good result. They're right up there at the top of the league, aren't they? So
bang in the mix. It's quite a good little race in that division. So plenty of opportunity for him. I'm sure he'll get plenty more starts and sub appearances.
Yeah. And do you want to tell us all about Tristan Abrahams at the weekend, Dan?
Yeah, well, we mentioned that his manager had sort of set him a bit of a challenge, hadn't he? To force it, and he responded with a goal in the 3-1 win at Dover. Now Dover are a shambles, to be quite honest.
But they've not been getting battered recently, have they?
They've tightened up a little bit. Yeah, but it was quite a smart little lob over the keeper wasn't it, from just on the edge of the area?
Yeah, just as he was getting into the area, I think he took it quite early and it caught the keeper out a little bit. It was really, really smart little finish from him. They were supposed to play Boreham Wood last night, but that game was postponed because they're involved in the FA Cup still, Boreham Wood. Yeah,
Everton tomorrow night, isn't it, I think?
I just hope the Toffees batter them, quite frankly. Manny Mampala, he came on as a 73rd minute sub for the Terrors, Weymouth, that is, at the weekend, but he wasn't able to get them back into the game as they went down to a 1-0 defeat to table toppers Stockport County. It looks like Stockport are nailed on to come up, doesn't it, at the moment? And it's just sort of a bat. I think you've got, who's behind them? Is it Chesterfield and Wrexham in second
in the
and
mix?
third now? Yeah, so it's tight, but
good to see what we call proper clubs up there this year.
Yeah, it's a nice mix. You always like to have one like a new club. You're like, that'll be interesting seeing them.
Yeah, now and again,
but you don't want. I mean, in recent years, it has mostly been a lot of new clubs, and this is not meant to in any way disrespectful to them. But when you look at the grounds that are coming up, you do think to yourself, are they ready for league football? Sometimes, not picking anyone out here, Barrow.
Or Sutton.
Yeah, it was Sutton. Yeah, Sutton's got space to expand there as well. I think they were doing a bit of work, but it's been delayed a little bit. I think by the looks of things. Well, let's get on to the important stuff now. Then, Dan, let's talk about the match reviews. And Christ, two good games to review, isn't it? As I said before, a week's a long time in football, and Brunton Park, it must feel like a decade or decades this week have passed. Obviously, returning to the hot seat for the first time in 16 years, Paul Simpson, he's already surpassed quite a few of his expectations, I think it's fair to say. In the turnaround he's performed in that short space of time, he's made a team that looked down and out with no confidence into a side. It's battling for every ball and looks like they're going to fight right up to the final whistle to try and not concede a goal. That's the one thing that's really stood out from these two games. And it's early days, isn't it, Dan? But it's a good base to start from, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're not expecting champagne football and 4-0 wins instantly, but he's picked a formation. He's sort of gone 3-4-1-2, hasn't he? And he's took the decision to drop Mellish back into defence, where he's put two half decent performances in, hasn't he?
Yeah, we'll cover that in a minute, definitely.
Yeah. No, he's picked a formation that seems to work for the players we've got at the moment, and we haven't had a lot of the ball in the two games, but we've been quite good when we've had the ball. I think would be fair to say.
Yeah, no, I'd 100% agree with that. When you mentioned there, not much of the ball was possession stats show. I mean, against Orient, we had 41% to Orient's 59%. Obviously, Orient played a lot of the game most of the second half with 10 men.
Yeah,
but we're still quite heavily involved in the game. Whereas the Rochdale game, we only had 32% possession, less than a third. But we created plenty of chances. I mean, obviously Rochdale created a lot more chances. 23 shots, of which only 7 were on target. A lot of pot shots from them, to be fair, and quite a few blocks got in, wasn't there? But yeah, no, it's two fantastic games, I think it's fair to say. Well, should we get onto the goals then, Dan? We'll talk about the goal, I suppose I should say, for the Orient game first. We'll talk about the Orient game, then we'll go into a bit more depth on the Rochdale game. So, Jamie Devitt obviously came to the starting lineup, and as did Christian Dennis, and the instant impact that the two of them made was there to be seen on the first goal, wasn't it, Dan? I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Brilliant bit of time. Dennis did really well to win the ball deep in his own half, and then played it forward to Devitt. It actually looked like he slightly overhit the pass and it was getting away from Devitt, but that's the kind of player he is. He's clever, and he just stuck a left foot in just to send Patrick away down the left, and he still had a lot to do. He still had a good 30, 40 yards to run. Got into the box, and when you get into that position with Patrick, you just have this little bit of belief, don't you, that he's going to get a shot away and get a chance. And he did well to turn his defender, and he hit quite a quick and low shot, didn't he? I think he just caught the keeper out a little bit. I don't think he was expecting him to.
I think the keeper watching it would probably be a little bit disappointed.
Possibly, but if you look back at it, he doesn't get much backlifting it at all, does he? He almost stabs it into the back of the net. And I think that's what's called the keeper.
That's helped it, definitely, yeah.
I think a keeper of Vigarou's quality, I'd agree with you. I think he probably would be looking back thinking, I should have done better with that, really. I should have anticipated it a little bit more. But yeah, what a brilliant start. I mean, I said I was at Old Trafford watching Man United against Watford, and I got an alert through on my phone when he went in, and I was like the only person in the away and going, yes, get in there. But yeah, no, fantastic. I mean, the only other real major incident to probably pick out from this is the red card. I mean, we didn't get to see the first booking on the highlights, did we? But when you look back at it, I don't think Archibald can complain too much, can he, about this red card?
No, not really. No, especially when you've just been booked literally 90 seconds earlier, was it, or something?
And then you're flying into one of those. It's one of those ones where Mellish has gone in to just boot it away, and he's. I'm not saying Mellish is being clever, but he's basically done it so he's like, well, if you're going to go in for a tackle, you're going to foul me, basically. I don't think he's looking to get him sent off. I think he's looking to maybe get a foul to relieve the pressure. But the lad's sort of gone in, not studs up so much, but he's caught him, hasn't he? And I don't think he could really argue with it. But, I mean, Orient had a few chances late on, though. When you look at the highlights, the few chances they could have equalised. And one key moment was that Simmo actually gave Skelton a bit of credit for, didn't he? He was bringing on Toby Shasilva later on in the game, because I think he was looking potentially at someone else, Simmo. And I think Gav said, well, they're quite a big threat on set pieces. Toby might be a better option to bring on because he might win stuff in the air. And he cleared one off the line, didn't he? So
Indeed.
Goes to show, and there's a lot of people being critical of Gavin Skelton recently, haven't they? So, it shows he can have positive impacts on the team. There you go.
I think Gav gets a little bit too much
I'd
abuse. He's a cracking lad. He's not one manager has had a bad word to say about him.
Yeah. And
that speaks volumes to me.
Yeah. I mean, when I was coming back after the Swindon game, I listened on the radio, and it's funny that they were obviously speaking to a lot of people after the game, and I think one of them who came on was someone saying basically, well, people are talking about Gavin Skelton, why Taylor, he's a problem. And I think Paul was talking to him a little bit, then he goes, so you're a Carlisle fan, Dave, or whatever he was called, was like, no, I'm a Workington fan. And he's basically bitter about what happened with Skelton in his very short second spell as manager. So, just happens sometimes, something like that, doesn't it? Not much to report on the Orient game of that fantastic away following, wasn't it? Over 700, well, just about 700, was it dead on 700 actually?
They said it was dead on 700. People I know who went seem to think it could have been more, but we'll take the 700. 700 to London in the form we were is impressive, full stop.
I mean, bear in mind, obviously, before Simmo was announced, I think we'd sold about 300 or something, hadn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
So for basically, maybe you would have had 100 buying on the day. For another 300 to essentially decide, I'm going to go to London now for the game.
Yeah.
Brilliant support. So yeah, fantastic, great start, and Simmo really seemed to get the fans on side and get the players on side straight away. So let's move on to the Rochdale game then, Dan. I wasn't at this one, you were, so you might want to run us through the goals from your viewpoint from being sat in the stand for this.
Yeah, the first one just came off a nothing free kick, didn't it?
Yeah.
We got a free kick.
I think Patrick won it. It looked a bit soft, to be honest, from where I was.
Yeah, but I was surprised it was given our way when he went down. Actually, I thought it was going to go the other way at one point, but no. David just puts the ball in. Keeper comes for it, and you think, "Oh, keeper's got it." Then all of a sudden, he's flapped at it, and Amari's just there, and bang, it's in the back of the net. It's like, oh, fair play. We'll take that all day long.
Absolutely, yeah. Just good strikers instinct. That's what 5 and 11 now for Amari.
5 and 11, yeah. Top scorer.
I mean, we did say he's more of a winger, didn't we? But actually, he's looking like a striker at the moment. The way he's playing, he drifts out wide a bit, but he's playing like a striker. Fair play to the lad. But on Toby's goal there, this is the one that everyone's going on about, because the noise when that went in on the commentary and on the thing was incredible.
Yeah. No, it was just, 1 minute we're defending deep. Mellish gets it, and instead of just kicking it out and keeping the pressure on, he sort of takes it to the corner, doesn't he? And he looks up and he sees Shaw Silver, and I'm just going to launch it up to him and see what happens. At least it's on the halfway line. We can come out, and next thing, Toby's rolling his man, holding him off, and manages to keep hold of it. Cuts to the right, gets past him, and slots it under the keeper, and absolute mayhem ensues. It was it was like a longer distance version of Patrick's on Saturday, almost, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But he cut across more central.
Yeah.
They both cut in to use the right to finish. No, it was a fantastic goal, and I don't think when you look at Shaw Silver, he's quite a big lad. He's a bit of a unit, and I don't think people would expect him to score that sort of goal. So it was, good to see.
It was fantastic to see, wasn't it? I mean, he struggled a little bit in some of his performances since he's arrived, but what was that, 2 and 4, 2 and 5, something like that now? So he's chipping in goals.
He's another who's just, he's been coming off the bench, especially for Sutton, hasn't he? So
yeah, he's still building his fitness as well, to be fair on him.
So a lot of the players that we've brought in are starting to get proper fitness from playing more now, aren't they? So
yeah, definitely. I mean, with that goal as well, I mean, you mentioned there, but I think a lot of credit has to go to Mellish for showing a bit of composure there at the back and taking that touch to take it round O'Keefe. And then you say sort of you didn't, to be fair, you didn't say it was like just a launch forward. He's looked up and seen where Silva is, hasn't he? And he's thought, I'm going to put it into an area to give him a chance to challenge for it at the very least. And he hit it perfectly. To be honest, he'd probably try it another 100 times, and he maybe only get it 5 or 6 times right, because in the area he put it into was perfect. And Toby, full credit to him, that there was about 2 or 3 times watching it, I thought he's lost it here, but he just kept hold of it and he kept going. And the big bit for me is if you watch right at the end, just before he takes the shot, lovely bit of feet work, really lovely bit of feet work, just to get it out of his feet, get it away from the defender, and give himself the space to shoot. And then, like you said, it was mad. I love the pitch side blue stuff they've done on the official YouTube channel this season's been a real positive, hasn't it, to see something a little bit different from the club in terms of that. And the scenes in the paddock when that all went off was mad. Greg Bulman, obviously, he's a friend of both of ours. He messaged me and said, bright yellow jacket there. You see, I told you can spot me whenever these things happen. Every game he goes to, he wears the brightest coloured jacket he can just so he can spot himself on the TV or in photos and stuff. But yeah, fantastic. I'm gutted I wasn't there. Watched it on the iFollow. Got to say, it's the first time I've watched the Tuesday night iFollow game, and for a long, long time when I thought to myself, I could do with a refund from this. It's been that bad. It was that enjoyable. It genuinely was really, really good. Let's go on to some of the sort of general talking points then, Dan. Yeah, obviously, we sort of touched on it slightly before, but changes to the formation and the team selection. Not a massive surprise that Simmo didn't waste any time in putting his own stamp on the team selection. I mean, changing it to a back three, it's proved an inspired move, hasn't it? Really, and the way he's used that back three in particular, because there's been some combinations of that by Millen that just didn't work, did they? And getting a bit of experience further up the pitch as well, I think made a massive difference too, as well.
Yeah,
because we've been quite light on that in the attacking and midfield areas this season. So on that point, obviously Dennis and Devitt coming into the team, it baffles you why Millen just didn't do this from the start. I know he said obviously they're not fit and stuff, but get 60 minutes out of them. If he'd done that by now, they'd be up to match fitness, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
No,
I've been especially impressed with Dennis. I mean, I know he hasn't scored yet, but his movement and his running, and there was a couple of times last night where we got shots off and he's running in for the rebound, and the keeper's held it, but in one game the keeper's going to spill it and he's going to be there just to poke it in, and that's something we've not had all season.
He's got some lovely touches as well, hasn't he?
He looks a really intelligent player. Yeah. He reminds me a little bit of when Alessandra had his purple patch.
Yeah, and I think, actually, in the style he plays and the way he runs and the way he does stuff, I'm not saying he's as good as him, but there's a little bit of a Danny Graham about him. Danny Graham was quite underrated in the way he would link play and he would do stuff like that. And I think there's a little bit about him in the way he plays. I'm not saying he's as good as Danny Graham, of course not, but there's a similar sort of style to the way he does things. And I agree with you. I think once he gets a goal, he's going to get a hat. Maybe not a hat for this season, but he's going to get a fair few for us, I think.
Yeah.
I think he looks a really good player, and Simmo's done the right thing, getting him in to build his fitness up, as he has done with Jamie Devitt. Managed to get 60 minutes out of him at the weekend. He took a knock at the weekend, and I think he got a kick, and that's the reason why he was brought off a little bit earlier than planned. At the weekend, on Tuesday night, was it 70 minutes he managed to get under his belt, I think, or something like that? Yeah. Just working his way up. He did look knackered by the time that happened, but he's playing a little bit deeper than the first time he was with us, but you can see it's there, can't you? There's a few nice little passes and where he's picking up the ball, and
he wants the ball all the time.
Yes.
He always did. He wants the ball, and he's clever with his use of it. And he's actually got quite a good close touch. There was a couple of times when the player got quite cramped, and he'd put a couple of touches in, and just eke the ball out and send someone on the way, and
and he's making Guy look better as well. Guy's looking more like the player because Guy knows he's got someone that I can trust. I can give him the ball, and he'll pick a pass out. I can do the simple stuff here, win it back, and give it to him when I want. I mean, Guy has looked a lot better. Obviously, he picked up possibly a knock in that game. Hopefully, he'll be okay for this weekend's game. But yeah, fantastic to get another hour or so under the belt of those two, and hopefully, as we go on, they're not going to need to be coming off in games. They'll be playing the full 90 where possible. So really good. I mean, in terms of the formation, were you surprised that he switched to the formation he did? We were always talking about 4-3-3, weren't we?
Yeah, I think 4-3-3 was the obvious one when you look at our players, because the problem at the moment with 3-4-2 is we're all a bit wondering about the sort of right wing back, because Riley had a nightmare game. Whelan doesn't suit wing back. No. Obviously, seen it and mellowed out long term, but no, Riley's looked like a man possessed in the two games. He's looked like his old self.
You almost wonder if under Millen he had this feeling of the manager doesn't rate me. That's the reason I'm not getting picked, because obviously he didn't get picked for so long when we were struggling in games. It was just weird that he just wouldn't use him, and he obviously mentioned, he's not big and physical enough, but it was like, well, we're not. It doesn't matter if we're winning the physical battles if we're not actually doing anything with the ball.
Yeah.
But he's had that real drive, as he said, and he looks a different player now. As you say, playing like a man possessed in a couple of those games. Speaking of playing like a man possessed, let's talk about the man himself, big fucking John. I mean, Viva Ronaldo. I mean, you talk about players going to hell and back. I mean, John's been to attack and back, hasn't he now? And he's slid into the back three to feature his original position of centre back, and he looked like he'd never been away from it, didn't he? He looked like, oh, this is my position. I don't know why I was never picked here in the first place.
The thing that suits him for free in the back, he can run with the ball, and if he's in a 2 and he runs out with the ball, you're exposing yourself straight away. But because we've got 3, there's 2 there, and we've got a bit of nous in the middle with Guy and Devitt, so if Mellish is storming forward, Guy will maybe just drop back a little bit, and there was a couple of times last night where he brought the ball out and it was just like, that suits you being on the left side.
It's not even just that as well. I think it's also he's very good. One thing is, I think probably he did quite a lot in the National League when he was with Gateshead. He's very good at stepping out of defence to go and win the ball and just nick it. And he did it, as you mentioned, he did it a lot on Tuesday night. He was coming out and he was just
a few times
just nicking it in, and he took the bit of the pressure off.
Just putting the foot in. I mean, it doesn't always go to a Carlisle shirt, but it disrupts them more than anything, you know.
Yeah. And like you said, you've got, because you played a back three, you've got two centre backs there who can cover, and Guy can drop in when needs be as well. So yeah, I mean, it's fantastic to see how well he played and how much it meant to him as well. And he, like I said, he was just kicking and booting everything that came near him, as did the other two defenders, which we'll talk about in a second. But I mean, the question you've got to ask is a little bit about Chris Beech's judgment in this, haven't you? And he completely dismissed it. He said he's not a set defender anymore, he's a midfielder. I've always felt, as we've gone along, he's always capable of doing a job in defence. I don't think he ever played that badly in defence for us in that first season, you know?
Not really, no.
He played at left back a lot. I think a lot of people seem to forget. He didn't actually play at centre back very much at all from memory. And it probably didn't help that he had Jared Branthwaite alongside him. And, Jared at times, and Jared Branthwaite was a cut above anybody we've had for years. So, fantastic, and love to see the curry pick, didn't we, last night?
Yeah, balance on his head.
Balance on his head. I'm going to get a flag done with that on. Man. What a guy! What a guy! We were going to touch on Patrick next, but actually let's cover the rest of the defence first. Actually, shouldn't we? Maybe. The one that a lot of people were raving about, and quite rightly after the game on Tuesday, was Morgan Feeney. I think these last couple of games have been a real sort of coming of age for him, hasn't it, in terms of his defensive performances and responsibility. You've been a big fan from the start, though, haven't you?
Yeah. It's like I sound like a broken record now, but a fit Morgan Feeney would have been nowhere near Brunton Park.
Yeah.
He's had terrible luck, but now he's got fitness. I realised today he's actually got an option on his contract, hasn't he?
I mean, I think that's going to be triggered, whatever happens.
I would rather offer him a new deal, a longer deal.
Oh yeah, I think what we'll say is, look, we're going to trigger you for another year anyway. Shall we negotiate a 2-year one instead?
Yeah.
Give you better money, basically.
Yeah.
And
again, similar to the likes of Tanner and that, say, look, if you perform and the club comes in, we're not going to stand in your way. Yeah.
He's got a bit of the Danny Livesey's about him in the way he throws himself at everything. And for a young lad, he's still quite vocal and organised, isn't he? I think he's got a little bit more quality than Danny ever had, and that's not a slight on Danny. Danny was a terrific League Two and League One defender. But you get the feeling with Feeney, he could still potentially play in the Championship at some point, I think, the way he plays.
Looking ahead to maybe start next season, a back three of Feeney on the right, Mellish on the left, and then a proper experienced centre-back, like a Kev Gray type in the middle. Yeah. That wouldn't be a bad three, would it?
Certainly not, no, wouldn't it? And, that's something potentially to look to. I mean, John's tied down for at least another year, isn't he? I think it might even be an option on top of his extra year he's still got. But yeah, I think for me, Feeney, just get it. I mean, it's one of those ones, obviously, with the option, we don't really need to rush into sorting it, do we, I suppose? As long as we just say we're triggering the option, that's done, and then we can go and negotiate a longer deal, hopefully, for him, because, whether we go down or not, he's a terrific player, I think. And I've got to say, looking back again, it's baffling, isn't it, that he was made a scapegoat after that Forest Green game to bring Simmo in. We'll talk about Simmo in a minute, actually, because I think there's a little change of tone on the way he's played as well. But me and you both said at the time, and we scored an own goal in the game, but he couldn't have done anything about it. But why he was dropped after the game, I just don't get it. I really don't.
No.
It was a weird one.
And it came full circle because he ended up, when McDonald got his injury, he was back in the team 2 weeks later.
Yeah, which is, that's an awkward one for the manager. I've just dropped you, but I'm going to have to throw you in now anyway because of the injuries. But he was fantastic. He kicked and headed and everything. I tell you, that lad would boot his granny into the paddock if it meant keeping a clean sheet. That's how committed he was. Brilliant.
I'll tell you something. He did a little video for buying tickets on Tuesday. I forgot just how scousy he is.
He is proper.
He's proper scouse, isn't he?
He's brutal scouse, which is very, very sort of thick accent. It's
thick dyed in the wool scouse, isn't it?
When I heard it, I was like, bloody hell, that really is a strong accent, isn't it? And I've been living down here for a while now. we touched on the other two defenders, so let's get on to the third one. And probably time for a little bit of an apology, especially for me. I mean, you've probably not been quite as critical as I have of him, maybe, I'm not sure. But, we were quite dismissive of him in the last few weeks, Daniel Simmo. We sort of said, 1.5 million for that? Are you kidding me? He's nowhere near good enough for League Two, or, he's having to learn on the job and he's not getting up to speed quickly enough. But, I mean, tell you what, he's not quite at that level of defender yet, but last two games, well, especially the Tuesday night game I watched, he's been fantastic, hasn't he? He really has. Yeah, he stepped up a level, hasn't he?
He was really good last night. Really, really good. It's strange because obviously Millen brought him in as his number one target, and it didn't really happen under Millen. No. Millen goes and he transforms. It's.
I think it's kind of he's sort of sitting as that. Was he the central of the three, or was he on the right really as well? I think he was more on the right, wasn't he, from what I saw, because he took a few throw-ins. So Feeney's there in the middle organising. And I think, I wonder if that's taken a bit of the pressure off him, because he was almost trying to be the senior defender, wasn't he, Simmo? Even though he's Feeney's 23, Mellish is 24, and he's 19. There's a bit of sort of like, all right, calm down, mate. You just stick to playing your football, get that right, and then you can show what kind of a leader you are. And I think that's helped. There's still a few shaky moments. There's still a few moments you're like, you don't need to play football that much. But the amount of times watching last night and he just booted the ball out of play, I was like, yes, that's what we want to see. Yeah. No messing about. Just get rid. Don't be playing in this fancy stuff. You're not playing under 23s anymore. And he seems to be getting it. I tell you what, I love his passion. I really, really do. I'll apologise alone for seeing that from him, because if anyone's not seen it, go and watch the Pitchside Blues video of the celebrations after Silva's goal, because he's going nuts, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's absolutely loving it. He's like in with the fans in the paddock, and he's giving all fist pumps to the Warwick. He's got a real passion about him, and that's what you want to see from a lone player, isn't it? You want to see them look like they care. And I don't think anyone has ever thought he hasn't looked like he's cared since he come in. He's just not had the quality yet, and now we're starting to see it. He's got to do it consistently. But there's clearly a good footballer there now. We can see that, can't we? Yeah. In terms of the individual players then, Dan, anyone else you want to pick out from the performance for a mention? Jack Armour's come back in and done all right, hasn't he?
I was just about to say Jack Armour's looked a bit more his old self, And
do you know what? I've just realised we just spent the last 10 minutes or so talking about the Rochdale game. We've not even mentioned Mark Howard, who was man of the match officially. I personally would have given it to Feeney, because I thought just what he did, and Howard made some great saves, but there's an argument that was a little bit wasteful finishing by Rochdale, with a couple of them at least. But I mean, what a difference having an experienced keeper's made. I mean, since he's come in, he's been excellent, Howard, hasn't he? He's one of the ones. Do you look to tie him down for next season at the end of the season when it's up? I mean, he's 36, 37 now. It's a tough one to judge, isn't it? Really.
You'd like him to stay, but he might not want to. He's a more southern-based lad, isn't he?
Yeah, I think for him, it's he's getting at least one more Football League season under his belt before he finishes. I guess maybe I'm not 100% certain. I mean, we might as well finish off with this bit and talk about the atmosphere for the game, Dan, because obviously you were there. What was the feeling in the crowd? What was it like, arriving at Brunton Park and the feeling among the fans before Simmo's return?
It was strange, because the last sort of couple of Tuesday night games I've walked down, and there's hardly been anyone walking down. But there was like groups of young lads, 3s and 6s and 5s, and you could see they were buzzing. And you can't beat Brunton Park under the floodlights, and when there's a decent crowd in and a bit of noise, and the team are having a go. There's nothing bad, is there? It was good.
It's fantastic season. Like I said, one of the biggest Tuesday night attendances in the league we've had in a long time, isn't it? Actually, just over 5,000 home fans, and I mean, quite often you're lucky to get 4,000 for Tuesday night home games. I mean, that Port Vale game I came up to, that was maybe 3,300, something like that for home fans. But it's not good at all. That, and that's the difference that having someone in that's popular makes, isn't it? Really, it really does give the fans a lift, and they can believe in the team. So, brilliant. 6 points out of 6. 2 clean sheets in a row. It's 4 clean sheets in a row for Simmo, though, isn't it? He got two carried over from his last spell 16 years ago. Can't be many managers who've done that. 4 clean sheets in a row over a 16-year period.
Yeah.
Quite incredible on that one. But yeah, so brilliant, and hopefully we'll be carrying out that on this weekend against Oldham, and we'll be here to preview the Oldham game in just a second, and we'll just take a break.
This is John Mellish. You listen to the Brunton Bugle.
There he is, Big John. We got a new one done, didn't we, Dan?
Told you I'd get some players, some new blood.
Brilliant. You literally grabbed him as he was leaving the player's house at Warwick Road and just got him to quickly record one. Cheers, John, for that little clip. We're all big fans of you here, so you know you're right to give us that. So just to remind everyone, you can subscribe to the podcast on all good podcast apps, whether it's Spotify, Acast, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and if you click subscribe, every time a new episode comes out, it'll come straight into your little inbox on the app, and you can listen to it straight away. Also, if you can give us a review on any of those apps, I think it's Spotify and Apple Podcasts are the two main ones that have reviews, and we've got 5 stars, I think, on Apple Podcasts. It's very kind of everyone. Thank you for giving us those positive reviews. Also, you can follow us on social media at Brunton Bugle on Twitter. Search for the Brunton Bugle on Facebook and click like. We're also on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group and the Cumbrians.net message board. And as I always say, if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. As ever, the second half of the show this season is being sponsored by the Carl United Supporters Club London branch. The London branch is open to all Carl United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore, and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips, as well as arranging many social events and sports games and fundraising for the club. They'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of their preview section of season 2. You can find out more about the Carlisle London branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. And we've got the recommended pub for this weekend, Dan. It's the Rifle Range Inn. Sounds dangerous, that, doesn't it, really, having a pub at a rifle range? That's on Burnley Lane in Chadderton, Oldham. The postcode's OL90BP. So that's the London branch meeting point for the game. So if you want to head there, I think away fans, I'm guessing, are going to be welcome there. And there's going to be hordes down for this one, isn't there, Dan? I think it's fair to say. Behind enemy lines. So a little bit different this week in that, because we're recording on Wednesday, I'm recording the behind enemy lines thing on Thursday. So we haven't actually done it yet, but I'm going to drop it in afterwards. It's a little bit of a arse about face way of doing it, but there you go. We spoke to the guys from the Boundary Park Alert System podcast. It was Andy that spoke to us this time. I think it was another guy. I think it was maybe Matt or something like that. I think we spoke to last time. What are we going to discuss? Well, we're going to discuss the shared direction, of course. That's the only thing you can discuss, isn't it? How he's turned things around at Boundary Park. We're going to also ask about if there's a temporary truce in terms of the issues with the owner and what the hopes are for the future for the club, because they've been in a bit of turmoil for a while now. So here's the chat that I had with Andy yesterday, basically, as we're recording now. So here's the chat I had. Andy, we're here to talk about all things Oldham Athletic, and there's only really one place to start, isn't there? The Sheserection. What an incredible job John Sheridan's done in the 6 weeks or so since he returned for his 6th spell. I think that includes caretaker spells as boss. Surely you could not have imagined he'd have done as well as he has done so far.
No, it's been a bit. I'll be honest, it's been a bit of a surprise. If I'm brutally honest, he's this is the 3rd Sheserection. He's had 2 other Sheserections when we were in League One, and he's come in January and managed to keep us up from quite difficult circumstances. But this one looked really, really bad, like the worst. And I didn't think with the squad that we've got that even Sheridan will get a tune out of them. But it's been quite remarkable. We're unbeaten in 7, which I can't remember the last time we've gone unbeaten in 7. It's years ago. So he's done an amazing job. I still fear that we haven't quite got the squad to maintain it, but to have got us back into the pack. Scunthorpe now look stranded, don't they? So
they look knackered.
Got us back into the pack where we're only, maybe a win and you jump up a couple of places has been remarkable. But then, look at you guys. 2 on the bounty. You've done your own Sheserection, haven't you, by getting Paul Simpson in?
The return of the king himself. It's incredible. He's done a remarkable job in the space of a week, not just in terms of turning around how we play, but turning around how the fans feel about the club as well. There's such a positivity. It looks like we're bringing 1,000 down for the game this weekend. Well, if we sold 1,000 tickets, it'll probably be well over that, I'd imagine. So, quite incredible, isn't it? Also, as we mentioned before we came on air here, we briefly at Carlisle enjoyed the Sheridan experience 3 years ago, and although he can be quite a curmudgeon character at times, I think famously you might remember when we beat you on Boxing Day 6-0, he did a post-match interview, which is like legendary now, because he was just furious. He was just angry, and we were like, and no one could understand why. And rumours came out afterwards that basically the players were really celebrating in the dressing room. And he was saying, "What the hell are you lot celebrating for? You're only 10th in League Two," or something like that. He was not happy to least. I mean, he's got a general knack of getting results, though, doesn't he? What is this link he's got with Oldham? Because as soon as he was appointed, you could see the fans suddenly like, "Oh wow, this could actually potentially help us a bit at least."
His affection for he has a genuine affection for our club.
Yeah,
I do believe that, and it's reciprocated. We feel a lot towards him. He was a fabulous player for us at the end of his career. He was a caretaker, like you said, on a couple of occasions. Then he was the manager when we last had a top half finishing in any division we've been in. We haven't been in the top half of any division we've competed in since 2009.
It's astonishing, that, isn't it?
13 years in the bottom half of every division. And so he was the manager who last got us into the playoffs. That ended sourly, and then he's come back on two resurrections where he's kept us up from very difficult positions. So he just has that. He just has something about him, about our club. The Swindon fans were giving us pelters when he came back because they thought it was a terrible appointment. And where else had he been recently? Where
Wigan, I think,
they
was
were
one
less
of the ones, wasn't it? Yeah.
Where was that? Sorry,
Wigan, I think.
Yeah, that's right, Wigan. Yeah, I was thinking he went back to Chesterfield because he left you for Chesterfield for a second spell, didn't he? I was trying to work out whether because he got sacked there, but yeah, no, it was definitely Wigan. So those two particularly were having a pot, but we sort of knew he would fit with us. And he's really got us organised, and that's the thing he's done. We had Keith Curl before that. You'll know him, won't you?
Yeah, we certainly did. One of our hosts on the pod, Dan, is not Keith's biggest fan, to say the least. I'm on the fence about him, really, as is Mike, who's one of our other hosts. But yeah, Dan never really liked him, to be honest. And he's still getting blamed a lot for the situation we're in because of a ridiculous bonus scheme that he apparently was the one who came up with the idea for it, but the club went along with it, so can't really grumble that much.
Is that right? What, and it still exists today with your players?
No. It's basically, we've spent the last few years clearing those players out, essentially, to clear the decks because we got in quite a bit of financial trouble. It's a long story that our fans certainly know about it, but it would take a long time to explain here on air.
Yeah,
anyway.
no. Well, I mean, yeah, you probably, we're in the same sort of parlous state with ownership of land and stands not connected to this club and all that nonsense. But yeah, I mean, Keith Curl early on this season, he just persisted with the 3-5-2 formation that you guys obviously are familiar with, even though it was self-evident to the most obvious layperson that we didn't have the personnel to play that formation. And then we had a caretaker for a short period who's one of the owner's mates, who was totally and utterly out of his depth. Doing team huddles in the middle of the pitch when you're getting pumped 3-0 away at Harrogate, So all that Sheridan's done is he's come in, and from what I can see in the games I've attended, he's just organised us better. So there's two banks of four and always two strikers, and we try and get the ball out wide and get it into the box. And it doesn't need to be complicated. It's working.
No, certainly not. I mean, as you sort of hinted already, this move to bring Sheridan back, that happened because of the desperate situation you found yourselves in, rock bottom of the league, and obviously we've seen Scunthorpe being cast adrift now by the looks of things. But this all happened because of the horrendous management of your club by the owner, Abdallah. Is it Lesmagam? Is that, I've got that right?
Abdallah Lemzagam.
Lemzagam, that's the one, right? Okay. There were a lot of protests about him quite recently, this season especially, and things like that, and some real sort of proactive activism. Has this move to bring Sheridan back sort of brought over a temporary truce to try and keep you in the league, or is it still rumbling in the background, that kind of thing? Well,
yes, to a degree there is a truce, but there were two events really that sort of brought about this. So we've got so on our podcast, the Boundary Park Alert System, we have on there representatives from our foundation, so that's our trust, our supporters trust, and also an organisation called Push the Boundary, who are a fan-led organisation, an independent supporters group in effect. We have them on the podcast each week, sort of talking about what they're up to, and we have been protesting. There's been independent protests on the pitch, not endorsed by the podcast or organisations.
Yeah.
in order to remove the owner, we have been making it clear that we want the owner removed. We have, I personally accosted one of our directors away at Brentford in the League Cup and shoved the microphone in his face. We've done all sorts of stuff to try to make our point clear. And eventually, through his legal advisors, he announced that he was looking to sell the club, that he realised that it was unfixable and he was on his way out. So that was the first sign that, okay, he's accepting he's going to sell the club. This may be a protracted thing, of course. Yeah. You don't sell clubs easily. So that was the first action. Then the caretaker that they put in charge, who was hopelessly out of his depth from one of their mates, was, I think in 7 games, picked up about 3 points or something like that. And when we got beat 3-0 away at Harrogate, that was we were then absolutely doomed to going down. There was no way we were going to stay up. And so the protests and the sort of vitriol was at the same level. And so it's a desperation move from the club. They think, well, what can we do to try and arrest this? So they get Sheridan in. And with the news that he's agreeing to sell, we've agreed a temporary truce to get behind the team. So back the team to the end of the season, see if we can keep us in the Football League. Because if he's going to sell the club, he's going to find it easier to sell a Football League club than he will a non-league club.
Yeah, absolutely. We're saying the same thing with us at the moment. Our owners have been talking about potential investment and change of ownership for quite a while, and we had a protracted issue with Edinburgh Woolermill, which again, it would take too long to explain the full details of that on here, but that was a fun ride for a few years, to say the least. Talking about the actual team itself then, who would you say the key danger men for United fans to watch out for this weekend?
Well, I guess it's interesting. So you'd be saying different players earlier on in the season to maybe now. I mean, I'm not the biggest. I don't know what you guys think of Hallam Hope. I'm not the biggest Hallam Hope fan, brutally honestly.
He was hit and miss for us. I quite liked him. I think he's a player who works well on the left of a front three. He wanted to play down the middle all the time with us. He was desperate to play down the middle. But he always got shoved down the left, and he looks so much better there. In fact, some of the best football he played for us was under John Sheridan, funnily enough. And he only
that's something Shez has said. I think did he score? Yeah. Did he score like over 10 goals for you in that season? Like 16 goals.
I think he got something like that. He did, yeah. And he was helped by the fact that he had Madison doing a lot of running up front, and we had Jerry Yates at the time. Obviously, he's doing really well at Blackpool, and he's done well at Swindon, obviously, in recent seasons. So that did help things a bit. But yeah, he's one of those ones. Hope. Some of our fans really didn't rate him and thought he was lazy and he didn't do enough. But I don't think he's ever been in there to be a goal scorer. He's always been a bit more of a link player. But
that's the funny thing for me is all season he scored about 2 goals in about 25 games or something. He wears the number 9 shirt, and he's the least looking number 9 I've ever seen. Yeah. He can barely hold the ball up. He's not strong enough, given he's quite a big lad, in terms of his size. He doesn't win anything in the air. He doesn't look a striker to me. I don't know what he is, but he's not a striker. In the week at Crawley, he was brilliant. Yeah, he scored an absolute beauty from the corner of the box.
Great goal, that, yeah.
And then he set the second one up by holding it up and then laying it in the middle. So yeah, I couldn't. So. Based on the most very recent form, he looked probably our best player in the week. I think realistically though, in terms of the genuine threat, Davis Keeler-Dunn is probably our most likely sort of goal scorer. Again, he's playing up front. In the last game, it's him and Hallam Hope up front. The funny thing is, I don't think either of them are actual strikers. No. I think they're both wingers or wider players. None of them are absolute bona fide strikers. We signed a lad called Fondop, who was released by Hartlepool, who Sheridan had at Chesterfield. He is a lump, so we could try and hold it up. He played 1 game and he's injured for the rest of the season.
Typical.
So we're in a bit of bother up front, if I'm honest. Dylan Bahambula, you may well have come across that name before because it's one you don't forget. He scored an absolute cracker at your place last season. And he can score really, really spectacular goals. After last season, he went to Middlesbrough on trial, and Neil Warnock had a look at him and decided he didn't fancy him in the summer. And so he came back, and we were all delighted he stayed, expecting to see him pick up, carry on from last year. and he's been pretty rubbish actually, if I'm honest, this season. He's gone missing. But Sheridan had started to get a bit out of him, and then he got sent off. So I think his first game back is Saturday. So I think he could be in on Saturday, and having had 3-game rest. So with a bit of luck, he might, for us at least, he might turn up and show something. Those are our attacking options basically, and those are the ones that are most likely to do some damage.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned Hallam Hope already. We touched a little about him, but Nicky Adams also playing for you guys these days. He had a couple of really good seasons with the Blues. He's a right back these days, though, isn't he? How's he doing?
He was a right back. He's now a right winger.
Is he back to right wing?
So he's. This is the difference. So Curl had him playing as a right wing back in a 3-5-2 that ended up a 5-3-2 when you're out of possession. So he was playing a defensive minded right sided role. Sheridan, in classic Sheridan style, has gone, well, the best thing what you're best at is crossing the ball, so I want you further up the pitch. And in the games I've seen, particularly at Colchester away, which was last weekend, I went to that game. Nicky Adams was the best player on the pitch for that game. He wasn't particularly great in the week. Hallam Hope was probably the best player in the week. But the one thing you can guarantee from I actually thought his legs had gone earlier in the season. I thought he's about 35 now. I thought he'd gone, but in the last few weeks he's proven wrong because he's been getting running up down that touch line and getting some cracking balls in, and either foot as well. He's been swapping from right to left, and
he's great on that. That's one great thing about him when he was with us. It was a nightmare to defend against simply for the fact that you knew that he potentially was going to go back onto his other foot, and teams hated it. Absolutely hated it.
I've forgotten one of our other attacking options. Is a guy called Topi Obedei, who we've had before. Another Sheridan sort of player. He's not played professional football for 2 years. Last time in League Two in France. So we've been breaking him in slowly on this particular last few games. He played in the week. He wasn't brilliant, but he can dribble and he can take players on. So yeah. I hope we cause you some trouble, this week.
Yeah. I'm just checking through our squad there in terms of ex-players for you. I think there's only a couple probably in there. I think Rod McDonald started his career with you, but I don't think he ever played a first-team game. And Louis Alessandro is the one that stands out. I'm not sure how many games he played for you guys. Do you think it was at the start of his career?
Well, I can't. Yeah, Rod McDonald. I remember the name. I couldn't tell you. Well, Louis Alessandro came through our youth system. And he was great. I loved Louis Alessandro at the time. It was him and Dean Smalley, another player that came through at a similar time. And he was always good for a goal, Louis. In fact, I probably wouldn't have sold him at the time because he was young. But, he's had a good career in the lower leagues. He did all right at Morecambe, didn't he? I think he went to Plymouth for a bit. Where else was he?
Yeah, he's a good little player. He's a very good technical football as well. He can hold the ball up. He can link play. Really good at that. Doesn't score as many goals these days. Yeah. And he's to be honest, I don't think he's made like one sub appearance in the last couple of months because he's had a couple of injuries and we brought other players in, so he might not even feature at the weekend. But he's one who, when he was first brought in by Chris Beach, our previous manager, he was so reliable. And when he played well, we played well basically. But I think he's I wouldn't say he's winding down his career, but I think chances are he's probably going to be leaving in the summer. I think it's fair to say.
Well, he must be well in his 30s now as well, I guess.
I think 32, 33, something like that.
Yeah. So he's probably coming towards the end as well. I mean, he was a teenager, a young 20-year-old when he played for us as short as well. And got his. You've taken our crown this year for having the most managers, haven't you?
I think so. Yeah. Well, it's mad because we had a period when I'm trying to think, go back. So if you go back to when Greg Abbott was appointed.
Yeah.
In 2009, after John Ward was sacked. Greg was then in charge until 2014. Graham Kavanagh was then in charge for a season. Then Keith Curl was in charge from 2014.
Couple of seasons.
2014 through to 2018. So he had 4 years. So basically, in the space of 9 years, we only had 2 and a bit managers, if you want to call it that, really, because Cav was appointed as an assistant and, given the job after Greg went. So we had a period where we were stable, but last few years, it's the turnover of players as much as anything. Our problem is we don't retain players. We have a good season, don't quite make promotion, have to cut back, have a struggling season, rebuild, have a good season, have to cut back, struggling. That's basically the cycle we're on. So at the moment we're on a downward season, which suggests next season might be a decent one, but we'll have to wait and see with that.
I mean, all you're describing there is what every low league team has to go through in League One, and not everyone in League One, but most teams in League One and League Two, have to go through it. And it's the greedy Premier League and Jean-Marc Bosman who I blame.
Yep, that's where it all goes wrong. Right, well, I've kept you for quite a while here now, mate. So thank you very much for your time. Before you go, have you got a prediction for this weekend's game?
I mean, we have our own little prediction league on our message board, which I do. I don't think I've predicted us to win all season, so I'll probably stick with the same approach, hoping that I'm wrong. You guys are on decent form. I've not seen how you've been playing in the last couple of games, so I suspect you'll get a goal or two. 1-1, 2-2 at a push.
I think our fans will probably take that at this point. Actually, keeps us both quite tight down there, and we're not losing games. That's the important thing. Andy,
well, I mean, a club like Carlisle United, Oldham Athletic, a proper football club. So, as far as I'm concerned, I want to see. I'd rather see teams like Stevenage and Crawley get back where they belong.
I had a feeling you were going to say those two because they're the two I was thinking of as well. Every season I predict Crawley to go down, and they never bloody go down. And I got to the point with this season I didn't, and it hasn't done any good. They're still not going down. Andy, thanks so much for your time. And
you're welcome.
All the best for the rest of the season after this weekend. And I think most Carlisle fans would agree. We really hope to see Oldham stay up because, again, it's an easy journey for us as much as anything. And like you said, you're a proper football club.
Yeah, best of luck to you guys as well. Hopefully see you next season.
Okay, thanks to Andy for giving up his time to speak to us about all things Oldham Athletic. So, yep, game this weekend. It's 3 p.m. kickoff at Boundary Park. At the moment, as we record, Dan, they've sold, was it about 950, I think, tickets for this game?
Yeah, well, probably be 1,000 by the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I expect they're going to sell about 1,200 in advance, aren't they, I think? And then
and there'll be people who pay on the day for various reasons.
1,500 at least, I reckon, for this one, which is brilliant.
I haven't picked mine up yet, so, and I know a few others who haven't. So,
I mean, it's one of those ones where I think it'll probably be one of the best attendances we've had at Oldham for a long time, actually, because even though it's like a northwest ground, we don't actually generally take huge attendances there, do we? It's about 600 or 700 usually.
Yeah.
So
I think there's been a couple of times we've played them recently when we've not been on a good run, or it's just it's not been enjoyable to watch at the moment. Or
I seem to remember watching. I think it possibly was at. I think it was one of Coyote's first games for us, actually, was at Oldham Athletic, just before the pandemic kicked in. I wasn't very impressed with him that day, so shows how right I was, wasn't it, really? In terms of head-to-head... Oh, sorry, referee first, I haven't even covered that yet. Sam Allison is the referee for this weekend's game. It's his second season as an EFL referee. He's taken charge of 24 games so far this campaign, handing out 94 yellow and 6 red cards. Very card-happy, isn't he, by the looks of things? Last took charge of United game for the bonkers 3-2 win at Leyton Orient in the final away game of last season, giving free penalties, of which 2 were missed, I seem to remember, and handing out 5 yellow cards. So certainly likes to be part of the action, doesn't he, by the looks of things, Mr. Allison?
Yeah.
Head-to-head record, it's the 89th time we've faced the Latics, which is quite a lot, actually, when I think about it. Probably they would be one of the top ones, but they had that period where they were in the top flight in Championship, weren't they, for quite a while?
Yeah.
We were struggling down near the bottoms, hence why we didn't play them much. We're well ahead, though, aren't we, on the head-to-head stat? I'm quite surprised by this. 37 wins for us, 22 draws, and 29 Oldham wins. So one of the rare ones where we're not behind. Last season, their final position was 18th in League Two. They were just an incredibly dull football club the last couple of years, haven't they really been, until this season? They've not really done much. Never really been in threat of going down until now.
Yeah.
Which is shown by the fact that they're actually currently 23rd on 31 points from 32 games. They're 4 positions and 3 points behind United, but they've played a game less. Well, let's talk about the manager, Dan. John Sheridan,
where do you start?
Appointed in January 2022 until the end of the season. I mean, the list of his previous clubs. I'm just going to take a little breath here.
It's his 4th one since Carl.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, and that was only, 4 years ago now?
Yeah.
3 years ago he left. That's incredible, isn't it? Okay, so his former clubs, Oldham Athletic, 3 spells and also 2 extra as a caretaker. Chesterfield, 2 spells. Plymouth Argyle, Newport County, Notts County, Fleetwood Town, Carl United, Waterford, Wigan Athletic and Swindon Town. I mean, you can say one thing about his managerial career, but it's not been boring, has it? I think it's fair to say.
No. I bet you could write a cracking book on his managerial time.
If people haven't seen it already, the excellent Under the Cosh podcast did an interview with him, didn't they? Yeah. And he tells some absolutely belting tales from his playing days, especially some about Brian Clough. But the one about his broken leg at Leeds United it's like you listen to it and you think, how on earth did that man end up being a football manager after playing? Because it doesn't sound like he got the brains for it. But you know what? He generally does a decent job wherever he goes. I mean, his spells at Swindon and Wigan were not great, were they? I think there was issues at both of those clubs at the time. And Waterford was almost like he was just filling a bit of time, really, wasn't he, until another job came up. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's his 6th spell as a latex boss. He actually finished his playing career there with a spell between 1998 and 2004. I mean, looking back at his time as United manager, Dan, reflecting on it, it didn't start that... I mean, I wouldn't say it started badly, but he sort of bobbled along, didn't it? I think he wasn't held by the fact that he'd followed the Curl era where, you know, Curl had sort of consistently had us up there challenging for a playoff place generally. And it was tough for him at first.
I think the thing with John Sheridan when he came in was he was very left field. He came from nowhere, didn't he? You know, he wasn't mentioned.
Well, they took a long time, didn't they, to actually appoint him? Yeah.
He who won't be named appeared on the scene, didn't he?
I think it was one that Clibbin sort of drove this one, but I think sort of linked in terms of sorting contracts.
Oh, don't say that name on here, boy.
Oh, sorry.
Who shall not be named.
I'll bleep that out now. Well, right, I've made a note, so let's get back into it. But yeah, like I said, it didn't start that great for him in his spell. He had some okay results early on. And there was a point, I think it was a game against MK Dons, wasn't it, where he sounded like he was basically on the verge of quitting and he had enough. And he was always a proper grumpy bastard, wasn't he, after games anyway? But he sounded like he was just like, you know, why am I bothering here? Yeah. And then suddenly we went on a 6-game winning streak, didn't we? Yeah. And we were challenging for the playoffs, and we had like Ashley Naddison up front with Yates and Hallam Hope, and we looked a real good team. You know, Granger and Devitt were both banging form as well.
I think he was annoyed at how inconsistent we were at the time because... You know, we beat Newport 3-2, and we absolutely ran riot at Swindon, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then Forest Green turned us over, and we got beat off Milton Keynes, and then he obviously just went ranch on them in training, and, you know, that mental run happens.
Obviously, one of the high points of that run was a 6-0 win against Oldham, funny enough, wasn't it? On a Boxing Day. One of our biggest Boxing Day wins in probably quite a long time. It might be one of our biggest ever, actually. Because I have a feeling we've had some big results on Christmas Day, but I don't think I think one of our biggest ever wins was on Christmas Day, but I don't know about Boxing Day. But yeah, and after that game, he was absolutely furious. It's absolutely. We'll have to dig out and put it up on Twitter again because it's genuinely one of the funniest things ever. Because he's just so angry about it. And by all accounts, he came in the dressing room and basically told them, "Why are you so excited? Why are you celebrating?" And you get
if you don't want to play it, I'll sell you and all this. And if you don't want me, I'll go.
It's kind of like, it was weird because it's kind of like you do at that point want to say to him, you know, I kind of liked him and some of the stuff he did, but it's kind of like lighten up a little bit for God's sake. You know, 6-0 win on Christmas, fantastic result, and they followed up with another positive result in the next game, which I think was Morecambe, wasn't it? I think possibly one of the next ones.
Yeah, so, you know, was that not New Year's Day? Possibly,
there might have been a game in between, but I'm pretty sure that was part of the winning streak when that happened, wasn't it? That was around about the time we lost, obviously, Naddison and what's his name? Yates both left and went back.
And Sowerby.
And Sowerby, yeah, they're the 3 that really crippled us.
He who shall not be named, it's mentioned at a CUSG meeting that all 3 would be staying, all sorted. Yeah, right.
And that didn't happen, did it? Sums it up, doesn't it? But yeah, you think back to it, like I said, we had that front 3 of Hope, Yates and Naddison, and then you had a midfield 3 of, I think it would have been Slater, Devitt and Sowerby, wasn't it? Really sort of dynamic, weren't they? Really exciting, you know, fast, forward-thinking players and a pretty solid defence as well. Obviously, with Anthony Gerrard, who he brought in, obviously had a spell at Oldham as well. Obviously, with Tom Parks in there and Granger and Liddell playing at right back. You look back at it, I think that was actually a really decent team. And if we kept hold of those players in January, we probably would have been challenging for the top. But alas, it didn't happen, did it? And he basically lost patience and left to go for the chase the money at Chesterfield, didn't he? In the end,
Probably still getting paid off them.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, so he's returned to the Latics now, and back in January, and they've been unbeaten since he came in, haven't they? Incredible. I think everyone thought he might give them a bit of a lift, but basically in the 7 games since he's arrived, 3 wins, 4 draws. That's 13 points for a possible 21. It just looks an inspired move, and it's one of those ones you look and think, why didn't they do it sooner? Whether they've had a probably better position of getting themselves away, because the problem is they've got these great results, but because they started from such a low base, they're still in the bottom 2 right now. I know they've got that game in hand, which helps, but it just sort of goes to show how tight. I mean, other than Scunthorpe, who they're gone. Don't even worry about Scunthorpe anymore. They're not.
So what? Scunthorpe have won 4 games all season.
Yeah, they're not turning around.
The 3 wins behind safety.
If Hill was going to stay there, he should be planning for next season, really, shouldn't he?
Yeah,
like I said. So yeah, they're not going to find the form to stay up, and I think their fans are realistic about that.
Yeah,
that's what's happening. I have a feeling with Scunthorpe, they could end up doing like a Southend or a York or something like that, and really struggling next season, because the money's been pulled there, clearly, hasn't it? There's been talk of a new ground, and it's just not working out for them. So there you go. So yeah, in midweek, Oldham they played Crawley Town and battled to a 2-2 draw. We're not going to talk about the goal scorers because we're going to talk about them in a bit in the X-File section, aren't we, Dan? That's you're going to cover that. But yes, that's a decent result for them. And like I said, another game unbeaten. And they actually went 2-1 down, didn't they? They went 1-0 up. Then Crawley got back in.
Three goals in about 5 minutes, wasn't it?
It was a crazy little spell. But yeah, so managed to get it to 2-2 and held on for the draw in the end. In terms of the form table, they currently sit 6th in the last 6 games form table with record of 1, drawn, 1, drawn. United are up to 15th, funnily enough. We've been bottom for quite a while, but those 2 results have lifted us up the form table. Looking through their squad, Dan, there's not a massive amount of quality in there, is there? Which probably goes to show how good a job Sheridan has done since he came in, isn't it?
I think what it is, they've got a bit of a spine about the team. Is you've got Nicky Adams, and he's been everywhere. Christ, he's 35-year-old now, isn't he?
Yeah.
You've got Perigani. He's been about. He was at Salford. He was been at Oldham. He knows what he's doing. I think Bugle he's missed the last couple of games, hasn't he?
He's suspended, I think. I think he's back from suspension.
He had a red.
Possibly, yeah.
But no, they've, even Hallam Hope's picked up recently. He's 2 in the last 3 games, which, that usually means. But
it's funny, though. He was desperate to get away from Sheridan when he was here with us, wasn't he? And then he went to Swindon, and then Sheridan turned up at Swindon, and he was, for God's sake, goes to Oldham to follow Keith, and then suddenly Sheridan turns up at Oldham. He was like, oh, for God's sake, can't get rid of the man. But he plays well under Sheridan, to be fair. Some of his best football for us was actually under Sheridan rather than under Kerr, wasn't it? So yeah. Obviously, like you said, you look through there. There's a bit of a spine. I mean, the other players in there, I mean, Davis, Keelia Dunn is one I always really like, and if he was available at the end of the season, I'd definitely be keen on us to look at him. He's a good little player. Harry Vaughan's a lad who's come up for the youth team. I think did he not make his debut against us earlier this season? Possibly, I seem to remember he was definitely involved in that game. I think he played for us against us on the weekend, and then I think in midweek he played against us in the youth cup as well, didn't he?
That's right.
Yeah. So he's an exciting player. I mean, January transfer activity, not much for them, was there? Because obviously they've had issues with embargoes throughout this season, haven't they, I think? Only 1 loan player in the squad. That's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? Because normally when clubs have got embargoes, that's the option they have to look at, isn't it? Because they can't sign permanent players. But they've only got 1 who's on loan from Sheffield Wednesday. They've had 2 others at the start of the season, but they both went back in January, so a little bit of surprise to not see that many there. lost experienced defender Alan Sheehan in January. He retired from playing and left to join Luton Town as first team coach. Off the field issues we mentioned, obviously, they've only made 3 permanent signings in January, which were Christopher Misselou. I think he got released by Newport, didn't he? Before the window. So I seem to remember there was a few people saying we should look at him. And I looked and I thought, we barely ever played for Newport. It's a bit of a weird one why people demanding that. Mike Fondup, who Hartlepool let go, he's had a big impact since coming in, hasn't he? I think he's just a big unit up front, isn't he? I mean, that's one of the reasons why. I think he might be injured this weekend, though. I saw something on Twitter about that. And finally, Taupe Obadeyi, who they signed from Sochaux in France.
That is one hell of a transfer, isn't it?
Well, I saw this and I thought, is he some lad who's played around like the lower French league something or something like that? But I remember when he signed, there was something about he'd come back to Oldham, and I thought, so did he come over to England for a quick spell in Oldham, then went back to France, and now's come back to Oldham to play again? No, that's not what's happened. He's English, and he's played in England pretty much his whole career, bar this short spell in France.
Yeah,
it's a bizarre one. I'll list it. It's amazing. Let me look at his profile thing on Wikipedia a second. Right. So yeah, he's born in Birmingham. I don't know if he's of Nigerian descent, so he's not of French descent. He was started out at Bolton. He's had loads of spells at Swindon, Rochdale, Shrewsbury, Chesterfield. He went to Rio Ave in Portugal for a little while. I think quite a few English players went over there, didn't they? I seem to remember. I think Simmo might have been involved with them actually for a short while. He then went to Bury. He had a loan spells at Plymouth. He went to Kilmarnock, Dundee, Oldham. Then he's gone to Sochaux, and then he's back at Oldham.
Then he didn't play for a couple of years though. He last played in 2019 or something.
That's a weird thing. I've just noticed that. Yeah, he left Sochaux 2 years ago. I mean, what level are they playing at? League 2 as well. So that's a very strange transfer, isn't it?
It's very, very strange.
One of those very weird ones, but there you go. So he's come back to them. But yeah, like I said, there's a decent spine there, but there's a lot of you look through and you think, I've not really heard of a lot of those. I'm not sure about in terms of how good they're going to be. So, but clearly Sheridan's got them playing well, hasn't he? So fair play to him. Let's move on to the United. In fact, before we do that, should we have a quick look at the League 2 table, actually, Dan? Yeah. We've not done this, and I think it's probably a good idea to start doing this for the rest of the season, basically. Just a quick roundup of how things are sort of going throughout the division. I mean, I'm just looking at it here. Interesting at the top, Forest Green is struggling a bit at the moment, aren't they?
You often find teams that are well out in front have a little wobble before they steady themselves.
To be fair, we had that as well, didn't we? And the thing is, even with that wobble they've had, they're 10 points ahead of Northampton in second, and they've got a game in hand. I mean, Exeter are the very interesting one, actually, because they've got 2 games in hand on Forest Green, and they're on 54 points. So, they are 13 behind, but if you win those 2 games in hand, and their record recently, they're unbeaten and quite a long streak unbeaten as well. Their record recently suggests that they could do that. So they're probably the one that you look at and think, well, they might end up challenging them possibly. Although, you've got to play those games in hand. Although one of them's against Barrows, that's guaranteed 3 points to them. So
it's a good battle in behind. You could probably make a case for everyone down to Port Vale, couldn't you?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, you look through it, like I said, there's only 7 points separating second and 10th.
Yeah.
I mean, and even then, you've got Salford in 11th on 47.
And then you've got teams on 31 games, 34 games. There's a lot of midweek football to come, isn't there?
Yeah, like I said, with Salford, they've hit a bit of form too. So, I mean, Port Vale's biggest problem is they've been drawing games. Looking at there, 4 draws out the last 5. So in terms of the playoff setup at the moment, you've obviously, Tranmere are dropping a little bit. Their good defence and that kind of thing has really dropped off now. They're level in terms of Northampton on defence with 27 goals conceded. So that's hit them a little bit. But they were never going to keep that up forever. Their problem is they've only scored 36 goals, Northampton. I mean, that's only 10 more than us, and we're crap. So, it's not ideal. They're only getting maybe 1 goal a game at the moment. And then you look at Forest Green, they've got 63 scored. So that's why they're top of the league, basically. Down at the bottom, as you mentioned, it looks like Scunthorpe and knackered, don't they? They're on 23 points, basically. So yeah, they're...
I think, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I think the results midweek sort of the week from the chaff a little bit. I think Oldham have got enough to get out of it. I can see Barrow and Stevenage having a hell of a dogfight.
Yes, I can see that, and I think Barrow they just don't seem to get results, even they're not playing that badly. They just don't seem to be able to step up, and the issues with Cooper and stuff like that, I don't think are helping things for them either.
No.
Stevenage, they picked up that bit of form when Tisdale originally came in, but then, like you said, looking at their form now, they've not got a result for ages, have they? By the looks of things. I mean, the same with Colchester. I mean, the League Two table on the BBC website shows you the last 5 games, and the 3 teams below us haven't won a game in those last 5 games.
Yeah,
Oldham have won 2 and they've drawn 3.
Yeah,
even Scunthorpe have won a game in the last 5 games.
Yeah.
So that shows you how much they've won to struggle. And Leyton Orient are just above us. They've only picked up 1 point from those 5 games. So I think we actually didn't touch on this actually when we did the previous section. Rochdale, I have to say,
Leyton Orient haven't won a league game this year.
No, exactly. I mean, is it November actually? Even maybe that the last one league game. I think something like that. But we didn't actually mention this when we did the review section. I thought Rochdale one of the best teams I've seen in terms of football for a long time. Play some really nice stuff. If they had a striker with a clear instinct and maybe someone who's a bit more ruthless in midfield in terms of putting tackles in and winning the ball back and stuff, I think they might have probably comfortably won that game because they really were a good side. A couple of additions in the summer, they won't go down, I don't think. A couple of additions in the summer, they could be a real sort of dark horse next season, I reckon. That's my very, very early prediction for the 22-23 season for you there. But yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. I think at the moment it's up to Orient, maybe Walsall because they've played the extra games, so some of the teams below them could drag them in. But I think even they've probably done enough to pull away now under Flynn. He's got a few results for them. So yeah, it's very tight at both ends, isn't it? It's very interesting. But it's interesting, bar the extremities of the bottom team and the top team, it's tight at both ends, basically.
Yeah.
That's the way it is right now. Okay, Dan, well, let's look at the United team stuff now, just before we do predictions. Joel Senior, he's had his knee up in terms of injuries. Good to see that, a bit of progress. Still a way off, though, isn't he? I think it's fair to say. We won't be seeing him in action for quite a while.
No, we won't see him this season.
No, definitely not. Interestingly, that Simmo has been quite open in terms of when players are coming back, which Millen was a little bit more open than Beach was, but he was not quite fully like, players back soon. Yeah. So basically, Simmo, I think, said after the Rochdale game that McDonald and Dickinson could be involved for the Northampton game next week. So that's good news. Potentially have those two back, a bit more experience in the team. Kelvin Mellor still unlikely return until April at the earliest.
You're probably looking at Easter, aren't you, to be honest?
Yeah, I think with him. I think with Gimme Touring as well, I think he's a couple of weeks off as well, similar to Dickinson and McDonald. Although whether he'll probably play for us again, I'm not potentially really that convinced. I don't know about you, but there you go. I don't think we really need to go through what team we'd pick because I think we'd probably both stick with what we've done.
It picks itself, doesn't it? Yeah,
just picks itself. I mean, the only thing really debate is maybe on the bench, whether you tweak that a little bit. Obviously, Windsor missed out in midweek, Divine missed out on the weekend. I suppose it depends on who you're playing and what you want to really do, isn't it, from the game? So there you go. I think there's not much to preview in that sense. We're very happy with the team. Let's just stick with it. Predictions then, Dan. What are you going for this weekend?
A barnstorming 4-3 win in injury time.
I can't believe you've done that because I was going to pick a 4-3 win as well. I'm so annoyed. Second week in a row, I was had that in my head. I don't know why, but
and it'll be a Jamie Devitt top bins free kick to win it.
Oh, right. So who else you going for the other goal scorers? You've gone for Devitt for the winner.
Dennis Patrick and John Mellish header coming up for the corner.
Brilliant. Right, I'm going to go for a 3-2 win then if you're going to do that. And I think goals from Dinel Simiu, who's going to score a header from a corner, and he basically is going to end up down the M62 with his celebration. He's going to go that mad. I think Dennis will get his first goal for the club. And I agree with you. I think Jamie Devitt's going to score the winner. And I think he'll do the old arms stretched out in front of John Sheridan, because obviously they didn't get on very well, did they? I think it's fair to say, when he was Blues boss. So that's what I'm going to go for. Let's hear what Mike has got to say.
So I'm going to predict a 3-0 win with Dennis, Patrick and Show Silver getting our goals.
There you go. That's very echoey in Iceland today, isn't it?
I was just about to say, it's, Mike's actually away for a few days in Iceland, so maybe the cold making his voice echo.
There you go. Well, before we do the X-File section, Mike has sent us a question as well. I forgot to actually do this at the start of the second half. It's another Simmo-based question, so we'll ask it now, and then what we'll do the X-Files, and then we'll quickly have a go at trying to answer it. So here's Mike's question.
So, continuing with Paul Simpson fever with the questions this week, there are 5 players that played for us in his last spell at the club who, after leaving the Blues, went on to play in the Premier League. Who are they?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, I think I know at least 2. I've got 2 off the top of my head now. I'm gonna have to. Okay, right. Let's have a little think about that one, and we'll come back to it after we've done the X-File section, Dan. So, not as packed as it has been in recent weeks. There was a few interesting ones in there, though.
No, Saturday. Well, this is before Saturday. Actually,
it was when we were recording last week, wasn't it?
I was keeping an eye on it as we were recording. James Taverner scored twice in Rangers 2-2 draw with Borussia Dortmund. Massive result that. On to the Saturday, Gary Medine scored in Blackpool's 4-1 win over Reading. Ashley Naddison scored for Crawley in a surprise 2-1 win over Forest Green. Harry McCurdy scored again, but they got beat off Salford 2-1. Mark Cullen scored on his debut for AFC Fylde in a 2-0 win at Blythe Spartans. On to the midweek games. We mentioned the Oldham game. Hallam Hope scored to give Oldham the lead. Then Ashley Naddison scored twice in 5 minutes to make it 2-1, but obviously it finished 2-2. And then one other incident of note, Joe Garner got sent off for Fleetwood for clashing with James McLean in their game at Wigan.
I'm not saying this, but it sounds, when you hear those 2 names, you think to yourself, yeah, I could predict those 2 players would end up in a fight in the game, couldn't you?
It's not as bad as it. I've seen it. It's more just a little tussle. It's not. I was expecting, haymakers and stuff, but it wasn't that.
He's a former Wigan player, isn't he, Joe?
Yeah,
well?
yeah.
So it's a bit of tenseness there, I think it's fair to say.
And the other news, I think you've left in from last week, haven't you?
No, I think these are 2 we didn't cover last week, to be fair, no.
Adam Murray has got a temporary coaching role at Port Vale, as Darryl Clark is given extended leave. And Jason Kennedy has joined Marsk United after his loan spell from Spennymoor Town.
Great to see Jason still playing football, isn't it? Because there was a lot of worry that he wouldn't be able to play again after the injury he got towards the end of his time with us. He got that one game, didn't he, I think, towards the end after he'd recovered from injury, which was really good to see. Okay, well, let's have a quick go at this question before we finish up then, Dan. Right, first up, the 2 obvious ones for me. In fact, 2 obvious ones for me. Michael Bridges played for Hull in the Premier League, didn't he? And Kieran Westwood for Sunderland.
I'm going to offer up. I've just forgot his name. I had his name there and I forgot it. Glenn Murray.
Yes. Good show. I didn't even think of
Glenn Murray. Yeah, and I'm trying to think who else. 5 of them.
Is there any goalkeepers we've had on at the time?
I'm trying to think, if we've had a loan here.
No, because we only had... Oh, no, in fact, you're probably going to have to go back, possibly, to... This is the problem. We're going back now, potentially, to the first season in charge.
Yeah.
All those millions of players. Matty Fryatt is another one. I just remembered off the top of my head.
Yes, that's a good shout.
So we've got 4. We've got 1 left to get. Oh, God.
Who could it be?
This is a really good question, actually.
Yeah.
There must be someone we potentially had on loan or something. We might have to give up on this one, because we're running out of time, man. We need to get away.
Yeah.
So,
off the top of my head, I can't think. No.
I mean, I'm thinking about the Paul Warhurst. Obviously, didn't go on to play in the Premier League, did he? He'd already played.
No.
No, that's really tough. That actually. Fair play, Mike. I think you've stumped us for once on this one. Okay, then let's see what the answers are for this one.
And it's Glenn Murray, Kieran Westwood, Matty Fryatt, Mark Tierney, and Alan O'Brien.
Ah, yes.
Hang on.
Tierney.
Did he not include Michael Bridges there? I don't think he did he? Oh, judges panel need to check on this one, I'm afraid. I think he's messed up there, Mike. I think there might be 6. Well, I'll double check after this, but I'm fairly sure he played at least a couple of Premier League games.
Players' answers
Hull
again?
City. Let's hear them again.
And it's Glenn Murray,
We got that.
Kieran Westwood,
Yeah.
Matty Fryatt, Mark Tierney, and Alan O'Brien.
Alan O'Brien's a great shout. I think he had a sub appearance for Newcastle. That's fair play, that one. But I think Michael Bridges did as well. So I think we've got 4 out of 6 essentially there. So
Michael Bridges didn't.
Did he not?
No, Championship.
I was sure he played at least one game for them. Fair. Yeah. Mike must have double checked it, but there you go. So
Tierney's a cracking shout.
It is, isn't it? You completely forget that.
You just completely forget, don't you? Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, fair play, Mike. You stumped us this week, I think it's fair to say. And that's it for this week's episode. Thanks, Dan, once again for joining me. Thanks once again to our sponsors, the London branch, for their support this season. In terms of upcoming episodes, Dan, we're closing in fast on our 100th episode, aren't we? That includes obviously the special ones we've done. I think we're on about 91, 92 at the moment. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, so sometime in April we'll be hitting the 100 mark, and we'll have to do something special to mark it, won't we? Maybe get a special guest in or something like that, possibly. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, thank you once again, everyone, for your support. Really appreciate it. I think we've had a couple of new countries as well, haven't we, recently? I noticed that. Japan.
Yeah, Finland and Japan, was it?
Big in Japan. And Cape Verde as well. That one appeared as well, which is
that rigs someone on holiday, doesn't
100%, especially as there was one listen and then it disappeared. So there you go. But thanks, like I said, once again for your support. I think last week's episode, about Simmo's return, was some of the best listening figures we've had for quite a while, actually. Funny enough, it's always the ones when managers get sacked or appointed that we get a real upturn in terms of listens, which is very odd, isn't it? But there you go. But yeah, the figures are really high at the moment, so it's brilliant. Thank you very much for your support. Enjoy the game this weekend if you're going down to Oldham, and look forward to it, and hopefully as well a big crowd for the Northampton game. Thanks for listening, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.